Most people are not lazy, they are not stupid, they are not unlucky. They do not lack talent, they just never learned how to grow in a way that actually sticks. You probably know what that feels like. You decide to change something, wake up earlier, read more, stop wasting time, get serious about your goals. You start strong, maybe 2 days, maybe a week. And then, slowly, without even realizing it, you drift back to exactly where you were. And the worst part is not failing. The worst part is the story you tell yourself after. I just don't have the discipline. Other people can do this. I can't. Maybe I'm just not built for this. That story, that quiet, private belief that you are somehow behind in a way you cannot fix, that is what actually keeps people stuck. Not laziness, not circumstances. That one belief. Today, I want to tell you the story of a boy named Kaif, because Kaif carried that exact belief for years. And what changed his life was not a big moment, not a motivational speech, not a sudden burst of willpower. It was one number, written on a blank page by an old man who had seen enough of life to know how growth actually works. Before we get to Kaif, I need you to understand something, really understand it. The reason most self-improvement advice does not work is not because the advice is wrong, it is because it asks too much, all at once. Wake up at 5, exercise every day, read 30 pages, journal, meditate, learn a new skill, fix your diet, call your parents, stay consistent, build habits, think positive, stay grateful. And if you miss one day, start over, try harder, be better. That is not a growth plan. That is a collapse waiting to happen. Because what that approach does, without meaning to, is teach your brain that growth is painful, overwhelming, and ultimately something you are not capable of sustaining. And once your brain learns that lesson, it starts protecting you from even trying. That is why so many people, smart, capable, genuinely wanting to improve people, end up doing nothing. Not because they gave up, but because somewhere deep down, they stopped believing that starting was worth it. Kaif was one of those people. Kaif was 15 years old. He was not a bad student, not a troubled kid. He came from a regular family in a regular neighborhood. The kind of life that looks perfectly fine from the outside and feels quietly frustrating from the inside. He was aware of his own potential in the way that is almost painful, because awareness without direction does not feel like a gift. It feels like pressure with no exit. He knew he could be more. He thought about it constantly. He made lists, plans, promises to himself. And then he watched himself break every single one of them. Not dramatically, quietly. The way most people fail, not in one big collapse, but in 100 small surrenders that nobody notices except you. By the time his grandfather came to visit that winter, Kaif had already decided something about himself. He had not said it out loud, but he had decided it. I am the kind of person who wants things and cannot make them happen. His grandfather was not a philosopher. He was not a wise old sage from a movie. He was just an old man who had built a small business from nothing over 40 years, raised 4 children, buried a wife, and kept going through all of it without much fuss. He did not give advice unless someone asked, and he did not dress his advice up in complicated language. One evening he found Kaif sitting at his desk, notebook open, nothing written in it. That specific kind of stillness that is not rest, it is paralysis, pretending to be thought. He pulled up a chair, sat beside him, looked at the empty page. "What are you trying to do?" he asked. Kaif thought about lying, saying something vague, something that sounded acceptable, but something about the way his grandfather asked, without judgment, without expectation, made him tell the truth. I want to be better. At school, at everything. I keep trying, and I keep ending up back here. Blank page. Nothing done. His grandfather did not say you just need more discipline. He did not say when I was your age. He did not say any of the things Kaif had heard before. He just took the pen, and on that blank page he wrote one thing. 1%. That, he said, is where you start. Every time you try to change, his grandfather said, you try to change everything. You make a plan that requires a version of you that does not exist yet. And when that version of you does not show up, and it cannot because you have not built it yet, you take it as proof that you are the problem. You are not the problem. The plan is the problem. 1% better. That is all I'm asking you to try. Not 10%, not a new life. Something so small that your brain does not panic. Just one tiny thing today that you could not do yesterday. Kaif looked at the number. That sounds too easy, he said. It sounds easy, his grandfather said. It is not. Because easy to do means easy not to do. And most people choose not to. Then he said the thing that actually changed how Kaif saw the world. 1% better every single day. Do you know what that becomes in 1 year, mathematically? 37 times better. Not 37%, 37 times, not because of talent, because of consistency, because you showed up every day and did one small thing. Kaif sat with that for a moment 37 times, not a miracle, just math. He started the next morning. He read 3 pages of a textbook he had been avoiding for 2 weeks. Just 3. He spent 10 minutes on one topic he did not understand instead of skipping it. He wrote 4 lines in his notebook. Not inspiring lines, just honest ones. What he did. What he wanted to do tomorrow. That was it. That was his entire 1%. It felt insignificant. It looked insignificant. Nothing about that day would have impressed anyone watching. But Kaif did it. And then he did it the next day. And the day after that. Some days he did less. Some days he did nothing and felt the old familiar shame returning. But the 1% rule gave him something he had never had before, a floor. A minimum so small he could always find it, even on the worst days. A bad day was no longer proof that he had failed. It was just a bad day. Tomorrow was still available. He was not a changed person in a month. That is not how this works, and I will not tell you it is. But something was shifting, slowly, under the surface, the way things grow before anyone can see them. 4 months later, his teacher asked him a question in front of the class, the kind of question that would have made him go blank 6 months ago. He answered it, clearly, without panic. A friend said to him afterward, "You seem different lately, more confident." Kaif did not say anything back, but inside he knew exactly what had changed. He had stopped waiting to become someone. He had started becoming someone 1% at a time, quietly, daily, without applause. The reason Kaif's story matters is not because it is dramatic. It matters because it is ordinary, because it is available to everyone. You do not need a perfect plan. You do not need ideal conditions. You do not need to feel motivated. In fact, waiting to feel motivated is one of the main reasons people never start. You just need 1%. 1 page, 1 call, 10 minutes on one hard thing, one honest line written down before you sleep. That is it. That is the whole practice. The people who grow are not smarter than you. They are not more talented. They are just people who stopped asking, "Am I capable of a big transformation?" and started asking a much smaller, much more answerable question every single morning. What is my 1% today? Answer that every day. without skipping, and in 1 year you will not recognize who you were.